In this video, I'm going to share with you 4 reasons why your daffodils might not be blooming anymore. Daffodils are very tough little plants. Patches of daffodils can be found growing on old home sites that are long abandoned and forgotten, just like this one. There hasn't been a house here since the 1970s. These daffodils are some of the only evidence left that somebody once lived here and planted these flowers. Now we're back in my yard, and I hope that my daffodils will endure as long as the ones that I just showed you. Although daffodils are very tough and long-lived, sometimes they don't bloom as much as you would like them to. One reason for this is that they're not getting enough sunlight. Daffodils need 6 or more hours of sunlight every day. You can plant them under and around deciduous trees. Those are trees that lose their leaves in the fall and then put out new leaves in the springtime. As long as they are getting some nice south-facing sunlight, they should bloom. Daffodils come up in the spring and bloom before the trees leaf out. So there really are plenty of suitable planting sites for them. You don't want to plant them under evergreens. Don't plant them anywhere where they can be shaded out by a building or something like that. If they're not getting enough sunlight, the plants will probably still come up. You'll see lots of green foliage, but they won't bloom. Or they will have very few blooms. The second reason that your daffodils might not be blooming is that you mowed them down or cut the leaves back too soon after they bloomed. After the bloom dies back, the foliage on your plants continue photosynthesizing and getting energy from the sun so that your bulbs can produce next year's flowers. It takes several weeks for the foliage to die back after it's done blooming. My plants get mowed down after the leaves turn yellow, and I start seeing some parts of the plants turning crunchy and brown. If you plant them right into your grass like I do, pick a spot that's out of the way, a spot where you're willing to let the grass grow tall for a little bit before you mow them down. The third reason your daffodil plants aren't blooming is competition. Your daffodils may be competing with other plants for nutrients. This little patch of daffodils here hasn't bloomed in a couple of years because it is competing with this winter creeper ground cover. I didn't plant the winter creeper. It is an invasive species and it's really hard to get rid of. So I'm just going to dig up this clump of daffodils and move it out of this location into a better spot, probably sometime this afternoon. Sometimes your daffodils can compete with each other. Daffodils reproduce through bulb division. When you plant one bulb, it's going to multiply. The good news is that daffodils can do a nice job of producing flowers for many, many years without ever being divided, as you saw earlier in this video back at that old home site. Even though those look great, that may not always be the case in every situation. If you have a big old patch and you start to notice less blooming, you may want to dig them up, spread them out a bit, and then replant them. Digging up a lot of daffodils and moving them around can be a lot of work, but on the bright side, you'll be starting new patches of daffodils, so you'll have even more daffodils, or you could give some away to your friends and family. You might initially think to dig them up in the fall because the foliage has died back. You don't have to worry about damaging the foliage. Personally, I would dig them up while they were still green because daffodils can be pretty hard to find in your lawn once they have died back. The fourth reason your daffodils might not be blooming is they are getting too much nitrogen fertilizer. If your daffodils are planted in your lawn and you're a person that fertilizes your grass, then you're also fertilizing the daffodils that are planted in your lawn. So fertilizers that are high in nitrogen promote a lot of green growth. When your daffodil plants come up, they may be the most luscious green looking daffodil plants you ever saw. They're not going to produce those blooms. That's going to be it for this video, and there may be other reasons that I didn't cover that your daffodils aren't blooming. If you've had a patch of daffodils that have bloomed in the past and they have stopped blooming, just try moving them. Pick a new spot to plant them in. Make sure you plant them at the proper depth. Fertilize them early in the springtime, right after the foliage starts to come up. Pick a fertilizer that is made for flowering bulbs or a fertilizer that has a lower nitrogen percentage and more phosphorus. Something like a 5-10-10 or a 5-10-5 would be good. Give them the right growing conditions and they should start blooming again. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.